is there not a condition that we can put on this evening to actually make a time limit on the implementation?
Matthew?
So when you say, sorry, can I ask for a clarification? When you say implementation, it's there at the moment. I mean, implementation of the noise monitoring, the air quality monitoring, they've installed the noise monitoring, the air quality stations today now. So they are there up and operating. The 3 months was to start this monitoring plan of, it includes engagement, discussions, passing on of information, and then addressing those issues. So that monitoring plan would start now. The actual air quality monitoring has started.
So Mel, that wasn't the bit you were asking, was it? It was the bit you were asking. You're asking about Costco bit, yeah? Right, Matthew, the report talks about 2-year time limit was suggested to review the arrangement. Is that the bit you're not happy with, Mel? Yeah, I thought so. Right, Matthew.
So Costco is suggesting that we have a 2-year time limit on the scheme. So essentially, after 2 years, they'd have to come back for planning permission all over again. We are suggesting that we have the ways of enforcing the scheme. So if there is a breach, we can deal with that through a breach of condition notice rather than having to go through the whole process of submitting a planning application again. So that was the way we're suggesting we'd overcome that.
Happy with that, Mel? Yep, okay, thank you. Councillor John Todd.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Thank you, Matthew. Would you agree, Matthew, that the review you've conducted has highlighted the adequacy of the earlier response by the council to their application?
So I'll put it in the context of when we report it to your original. Oh, sorry. I'm going to assume you mean the original planning application back in 3 years ago, or the one
in June.
The one in June. So we were always putting in the context of our local plan policies. So when I was suggesting it's satisfactory, it was to overcome the policy issues, which was to identify sensitive uses and then propose mitigation to overcome them. And as I said before, the local plan policies don't account for a use as sensitive as the Virtus data centre. So now we've gone a step beyond what our policies require of us to directly address the concerns raised by the gentleman at the planning committee in the evening. So those are the additional steps that they've taken.
I can't handle your beautiful polished responses, but can I make little chips in? You said there was no enforcement case, but you sent me an email at the time of the last application saying there was an enforcement case. There was an enforcement case, but the decision was made to formally withhold the formal action. I mean, I'm not trying to compromise, not suggesting you misleading us, but what was significant to me, the reason why I thought would challenge you on that, is the applicant who came here, the lady, was very frank about being aware of that.
Yes, sorry, Councillor, if I've not been clear on that. So I suggested that there was no complaint about impact of air quality and noise. There was no direct complaint about it. So we did not go away and investigate particulates into the Virtus data centre. We did receive a complaint to an planning enforcement team that the conditions had not been discharged. So that was the complaint that we received. And we duly took action against conditions not being discharged. That was the planning application that was in front of you.
Okay, Chair, do you mind if I go? I've got some more questions. Yeah. Matthew, top of page 61, you highlighted at the last presentation the environmental permit from the Environment Agency. Now, my interpretation of that statement, which is a very powerful one, that it was all embracing, but clearly that has deficiencies. You've identified weaknesses on the site that other people haven't done.
So to suggest that we've identified weaknesses is additional ways of monitoring is what I'm suggesting we've done, direct monitoring to the Virtus data centre. I think the environmental permit I'm sorry, just to clarify, I'm not an expert on environmental permit. It goes in the report on the basis that it's an additional layer of legislation to add comfort to the decision, but it operates in general in a manner that complies with what the environmental permit would be, and that includes a certain amount of PM10, dust particulates exiting the site. If this threshold is exceeded, then their environmental permit they're in breach of their environmental permit. They have to address that point. So it's a more effective way of perhaps monitoring the PM10 particulates.
Okay, but I would suggest they were in breach. But I'm like you, I'm not an expert. But I'll come back to a very basic point, if I could. Would you kindly look at page 59, paragraph 1314, and have the top of page 63 ready? There's a reason there. Can you see on top of page 63, paragraph 2? Now, going back to page 59, I don't understand the relationship between concrete batching plant and the suggestion that's part of any waste recycling policy that we approve of. Can you clarify how you make that conclusion? Am I not clear?
Sorry, I need to go through that. So the concrete batching plant is separate to the waste recycling facility. The waste recycling facility is next to the concrete batching plant. They both operate on the site.
Okay, well, let me break it down. Concrete batching, I'm not quite sure what concrete batching plant is. Do they manufacture cement, concrete there, or is it simply bagged up?
So they take the construction waste, put it into the batching plant, mix it up, cement comes out. Sorry, okay. That's my very broad understanding of the situation.
Okay. So is that producing concrete or batching?
It's producing concrete from the recycled waste.
Which is an area where tons of CO2 are produced.
So yes, there would be an output, but just to reiterate, it's right next to a recycling. To have it right next to the recycling facility is a massive bonus in terms of sustainability, because you don't have to transport it from one site to another.
I think you're missing my point with respect. You're trying to justify this action taking place because it aligns with the West London policy on recycling. But this is not recycling per se, it's a manufacturer.
Yes, so it is a departure. That's why that's in front of you tonight anyway. So we are treating it as a departure because it's a household waste facility. So but both are a departure from the local plan, yeah.
Too much, and you're very patient, but I see a contradiction between those two paragraphs, but I've made my point. Whilst we're dealing with concrete, reassure us that the site and its plant are adequately monitored to ensure there's no pollution.
So this is what the monitoring station would do. They installed a monitoring station just right next to the concrete batching plant. So that'll measure the PM10 particulates, which is the concrete particulates that leave the site, that exit the site. You'll have an actual figure for that, and there is a specific level that the environmental permit says is acceptable, which they can't exceed, or they'll be breaching their permit. Then there is possibly going to be another level that's satisfactory to the Virtus Data Centre. So that's when they would be in breach of planning conditions, because they've made that commitment to monitor it and agree it with Virtus.
Okay. I'm surprised PM10, that's a very median measurement. Where's PM 2.5, where you've got a product that produces lethal pollution?
So PM10 is generally applicable to cement dust. It's actually, I think PM10 is directly what is one of the key things that they suggest fits into that category. PM 2.5 is nitrous oxide, so that's car fumes. That is far smaller, and I'm going to suggest that's not going to be, if you had any waste facility there, you're always going to have the vehicles coming and going. It's going to be a comparable level. So if it were to comply with the household waste facility, which is what we've got allocated for, there's no reason to believe there'd be any reduction. In fact, there's likely to be a very similar level, if not more.
Sorry to be so technical. I mentioned the word plant in my question. I understand from the Mayor of London, who sent me some emails this week, they're expanding our obligation to monitor plant. That The best example I was given, some of these refrigerated lorries and plant pump out huge amounts of pollution. How do we know that in this manufacturing process, the plant there isn't in breach of the legislation or there is pollution per se?
So there is sorry, Councillor, I'm just double checking before I say it to you in case I mislead you in any way. I won't be long. So, okay, there is not a condition there that would monitor that. They have lifted their existing equipment from another site and moved it to this site. I've said this before, so you wouldn't be looking at an upturn or downturn in the level of emissions in terms of sustainability, if that's what we're concerned with, and overall air quality. It's there now, so I'm not sure how you would condition them to remove anything that's in place. I don't think that would be a reasonable thing to do.
I think movement is extreme. What we say to you, listen, you've got that bit of kit there. Tell us what the measurement, what's it belting out?
Okay, as I said,
this whole report really, which I readily endorse, is vibrant action. You know, we've got this borough emergency with, you talk about carbon offset funds and all that, and yet we've got potentially a time bomb here that's bunging out muck next to our waste depot and jeopardising our staff.
So just to clarify, it's a construction waste recycling facility with a batching plant right next to it. The overall carbon benefits of having a construction waste facility and then B, the batching plant right next to it, so there's no transportation required. It stays on the site and then leaves the site is potentially a very big bonus to the site. So you are looking at benefits in that manner.
So if I say there is no oversight of plant and machinery as to its pollution capacity, would you say that's correct or not?
I would say that's correct, yeah.
Yes.
Only anything that's exiting the site, not actually on the site itself.
I don't want the rest of the semantics, just black and white. So how do we address that? Can we address it?
So elsewhere, yes, we generally use conditions for non-road mobile machinery. You can do that. That's all quite easily done through standard conditions and monitoring through the GLA. Councillor, I'd happy to get back to you on that particular point, okay, if that's okay.
Okay. Can we please carry on page 61? Can I carry on, Chair? It won't be long. Yeah. You've made some very helpful comments in the report, Matthew, to be fair. And I'm looking at paragraph 2.5, there's mention of quarterly liaison meetings. And on page 10 of the additional report, the people who I'm looking after in the virtual data centre, or representing their interest, talk about condition 5. But first of all, let's deal with the quarterly liaison meetings. I presume that's some sort of condition in here. It's a good idea to have these liaison meetings. But if any client is dissatisfied with what they find, what happens post? Where's the teeth in that meeting?
So the teeth comes from the levels that they've committed to, the emission standards that they've committed to, which is the 190 UQMQ. Yes. Sorry, they've committed to a threshold. Again, not an expert on what an acceptable level is, but that appears to have been agreed. Vertis aren't objecting to that.
So is it a low level or a high level?
It's the environmental permit level, which is, yes, I'm going to suggest it's a low level, but then, sorry again, Councillor, I'm not an expert on that. As I say, this is why I keep referring to this environmental permit, which has got the heavy involvement of experts. But
I think I have reservations about that. And I'm repeating myself, sorry, Chair, but we have found through your diligence the need for a greater intensity of oversight that's being missed by that thing. Okay. Elsewhere in the report, you talk about dust and various definitions of dust. I went down to the Thames following your report to speak to some of the sailors, and there's a sentence in this report saying the wind only blows in one way. Do you recall that paragraph?
Yes, I do.
Not quite sure because of its proximity to the airport, but the sailors I spoke to found that quite remarkable, that they said the wind blows in all directions.
I think, can I just assist you? I think it was the prevailing winds was in
What does
a
that mean?
particular,
Sorry.
which is what, if you think about Heathrow Airport, they have the prevailing westerlies or they have the other ones. So,
No, I
it's
understand.
general, but I don't think they meant that in quite the way you're interpreting it, Councillor Todd.
Well, I think I'm entitled to
But I worry about
interpret
it.
it, yeah.
But could I just cut across you
Yes,
second,
yes.
just to say, Matthew, I think monitoring is the key here. We think we need to up our monitoring of what they're monitoring. Do you get me? I think this is what this is why I think it got deferred in the first place, because we weren't sure that it was really happening. And I think you've come along a long way, but I do think that it's probably we need to see if there's any way we can up our monitoring of their monitoring. Do you understand me?
Yeah, that's fair to say. That the focus has always been on minimising it. That the installation of a monitoring station, though, is presumably the best we can hope for in that situation. So we now will get an actual reading of what exits the site and what needs to be done to address any potential issues.
And can we make sure our scientists in Hounslow actually look at those figures? I'm thinking of Ajit Bansal and her merry crew. Yeah.
Yeah, I've got no.
They're the
I'm not gonna do it.
scientists.
So yes, they're the ones that have to
They
do
are
it.
very good
Yeah,
scientists.
for sure. Mhm.
And they'll understand about particulates and everything else. So it needs to be run by someone who's an expert. Is that okay?
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Okay. Anything else, Councillor Todd?
Thank you, Mr. Rees.
Okay. Right. I think we've done you to death there. Right. Comments from anybody or anything anyone would like to move? Any comments? No comments? Okay. Anybody like to do something? Remember, this was deferred from the previous from June's meeting, so we must make a determination tonight. So can I have somebody move something? Councillor Richard Foote. Thank you very much. Can I have a seconder for that? Thank you very much. That's great. Got that, Wendy? Okay. Can I see those in favour of approval? 1, 2, 3, 4. 4. Okay. Oops. 4. Is that 5? 5. Right. Okay. Those against? 1, 2. 2 against. And abstentions, please. 1, 2. 2 abstentions. That's. Sorry. So it's 5. Right. Sorry. Against are councillors Todd and councillor Dines. Abstentions are councillor Collins and councillor Regwinders. Okay. You got that? Yeah. Okay. So that's squeaked through. So I think the key there is monitoring needs to be robust. Okay. So as long as we've got robust monitoring, would be helpful. Okay. So, okay. Thank you very much for that. Okay. So there's no business that I consider urgent. Date of the next meeting, and don't rush off yet. Date of the next meeting is 2nd of September. But can I just let you know of a change of date for October, which is in your calendar. The Hounslow Area Forum will now be on the 7th of October, and the planning meeting will now be on the 14th of October. Okay, and that's been agreed by both the chairs. Okay, so Councillor Mel Collins. Second of September. I can't hear that bit, sorry, but I've definitely got your 2nd of September. Apologies. In case of what? Sorry?
In case the Park Road allotments are on the agenda.
I don't think you need to worry about that, Mel. Okay. Yes, Richard. Oh, it's going to be circulated. Don't worry. Oh, yeah. No, it's only just. No, don't worry. yeah. That just definitely, let's let you know, the amended date will definitely come out, and that will be sent out. Wendy will send it out officially to everybody on the planning committee, but it'll also be changed in the calendar. We'll make sure when Thomas is back, okay, somebody might do it in between times. But yeah, Thomas has gone off on holiday. Well, he's going on holiday, isn't he? Finally. Okay, so thank you all very much indeed for your attendance. And thank you all if you're still managing to watch online. Thank you all.
Thank you, Chair.